Hello guys, welcome back to 7.3.4 and we're back today with the next one of our 7.3 walkthroughs. So today I take a bit of a more weird slash complex route. I take the shock vulnerability nodes with Thunderstruck, Livewire, right back at it, and redoubled determination for the first 3 fights, and then for the remaining 3 fights I take a different path, which we will get onto after. So for the first 3 fights, you've got Strife, Guillotine 2099, and Punisher. So the nodes on here are Livewire, so both the attacker and defender's strikes have a 20% chance to apply a shock. Then Shock Vulnerability, while the defender is shocked, the attacker's attack rating is increased by 200, and Thunderstruck, shock debuffs and passives deal 25% more damage to the defender, and they take 90% less damage unless they are inflicted with a shock. So obviously you want to take in champs who, or you want to do a lot of your damage when inflicted with a shock, but special attacks won't really work because if you knock them down, then they get a debuff, which can be really, or they become debuff immune. So obviously they lose that shock and you have to get it back again, wait for that sort of 6 seconds for that debuff immunity to wear off. So originally I thought the best champs for this one would be champs who have a lot of, who give shocks, like Black Widow, Deadly Origin, Silver Centurion, Doctor Doom, Nebula, Hulkbuster. However, you don't need sort of like a Black Widow Deadly Origin, because the way this path works as well is that every time there's a debuff on the defender, which this is the redoubled determination 3 node, they gain 20% combat power rate and 65% attack. So they do more damage into your block if you've got lots of shocks on them, and they also gain a lot more power. So for someone like Strife, his SP1 is easy to dex, however his SP2 is a little bit more annoying. So you're better off just keeping him to that SP1, but as you can see, that can cause a bit of issues because obviously he gains more power, can get to his SP2 quicker. So really, any champ works for this. You just have to do most of your damage while the shock is on, and then and basically that's the way you should play. These fights do take a lot of time, so you'll see that this whole path is maybe the longest path. I think it had a combined, like, this video was going to be 40 minutes unless I sped it up. So for this one, it's all sped up. Strife was the easiest one, Guillotine is the hardest, and Punisher is in the middle. Guillotine, just such a pain with the going invisible, hitting with the shocks. Like Gallon, obviously, I've actually worked out, like, at the beginning when I got Gallon, I thought he'd be more of a Battlegrounds man, and then the longer I had him, the more I thought that. And then you'll see when it comes to the Kang fight, just like this, there's bosses on this one that Kang takes, there's defenders on most paths that he takes, and then he obviously takes like the big Kangs as well because of that just harvest damage. So yeah, he's really, really amazing for this path, and as he seems to be with a lot of the paths. So yeah, as I said, the key here, do a lot of your damage while the shock is on. Try to not to knock them down because that gives them a debuff immunity, so that can be really, really annoying. If you're going to bring in Gallon, he does work. You just have to make sure when the harvest is going to detonate that they have a shock on them, otherwise they won't take any damage. And obviously knocking them down from that harvest doesn't actually give them as much damage because they become debuff immune. And as you can see, it's almost a very annoying cycle. So as I said, there are a lot of good champs for this. I would say Nick Fury is a good one because of that Guillotine, or any miss counter really, like Quicksilver would work. But then what I was finding with my Quicksilver was that he was actually becoming more annoying for this fight because he would put a shock on, and then he would either get smacked by her SP1 because obviously, you know, Gallon is power burn immune, but Quicksilver's not. So yeah, for this Guillotine, it was a bit of an annoyance. I would definitely recommend bringing in somebody who is miss, or who's, you know, can counter miss, because can be really, really annoying. But all in all, you know, she's not too tricky. Doctor Doom is also a really good one for this path. Obviously, he's just an amazing champ, but for this path in particular, he puts the shock on. He also can get the stagger while the shock's on, and he also has power control. So that works really, really, really nicely, and makes him one of the best attackers for this path. I will leave the rest of this video to play out, and then I will see you in the fight which is next, which is the Punisher one. So back again, transitioning back for Punisher. These are the same nodes, of course. However, I did go with Kitty Pryde, keep him to his SP1 again, because his SP2 will do a lot of damage into your block, whereas the SP1 you can dex if you're really good at playing Punisher. I, however, am not good enough probably to dex his special attack, or have not had enough practice against him, so I just didn't bother. What I was trying to do for this one was I was putting a shock on him, then I was phasing, doing a lot of my damage with that SP2, and then when obviously he would go debuff immune, just sort of staying out of the way, making him throw his SP1, going back in, getting the shocks on, and that was sort of the cycle I played for this Punisher. He was really, really annoying, and maybe not too bad. He definitely wasn't as bad as the guillotine, and the strife was also really annoying until I brought in Professor X. Then obviously with his psychic shield in, his cloak didn't work, or Strife's cloak didn't work, so obviously that made him a lot easier. Here I was just trying to get rid of it, throw that, as I said, throw the SP2 again. Obviously didn't work, as you can see there, because there's no shock on, which was just annoying really. But again, it's an easy fight for a Doom or anyone really like that. As I said, you could even bring in like an Archangel for the neurotoxins. He would work, as would Black Widow Deadly Origin. But too many shocks, too many debuffs does mean that they gain an absolute ton of power. So you either want lots of debuffs with power control, or just champs with power control. For the next set of fights, we move on to a different set of nodes, which we'll get into when we get to that Loki fight. See you in the next fight. Hello guys, so this is where I take a bit of a diversion. I play this path with basically two different set of nodes. For the Loki and the remaining fights, as you can see on the screen here, we've got Precision Parry, Double Down, Mix Master, and Shifting Immunity. So you've got Precision Parry, so they're immune to stun. If you've got more than one Precision buff, then a passive stun is applied to them on a well-timed block, so obviously a parry. However, this expires after 0.5 seconds, depending on how many you've got. Say you've got 3, that's 1.5 seconds. So basically, they're stun immune. Double Down, whenever a skill attacker fails to apply debuff to the defender due to them being immune, you gain a precision buff. So champs who work well for this are like, well, we'll get on to the next node and then it's easier to explain. Shifting Immunity, the defender starts the fight with bleed immunity, then alternates to poison, then bleed. So basically every time, that alternation happens every 10 seconds. So obviously every time you, if you bring in a skill champ, say a skill champ who is like Nick Fury, Black Panther, who put lots of bleeds on, and then the bleed shifting immunity comes up, then that's when you gain your a lot of precision buffs. That can then give you the precision parry. And then the final node to top this off is if the attacker attempts the same basic attack twice in a row, the defender has a 300% chance to evade. So you want anti-evade champs preferably skill. So Falcon, Shang-Chi, Elsa Bloodstone, Killmonger, Stealth Spidey, or skill champs with bleeds/poisons, so Black Panther, Nick Fury. That's if you want to take this whole path on, the path beginning with Void. I actually chose against this because the Void fight is so annoying, and so is the Wasp fight. So I ended up taking the Strife fight, as you could see in this one. Then I end up using Quicksilver because obviously he has the slow, so he works, and just basically ignoring that stun immunity. But you will have Human Torch on this one, so an Incinerate immune champ would work really nicely. I did have Kitty. I basically just went with Unit Man for this whole quest. 7.5 was easy. 7.6 was relatively easy too. But this one was just really annoying, so I just thought, well, I'll Unit Man it. I think I maybe spent about 100 units, not that many, on just getting past the Human Torch. And then for the boss is one of the easiest bosses in 7.4 or 7.3, in my opinion, if you've got the right counter, who I did. I luckily had Overseer, but you could also go with Thing or other champs who are Nullify immune or who don't get buffs, like Titania, Spider-Man 2099. They all work really, really well as well. So that's it for these three fights. These three fights are obviously Loki, Human Torch, and Tigra. For Tigra, keep her to the SP1, but you can push the SP2. For Loki, easy fight if you've got that evade counter champ, like, say, a Nick Fury or a Shang-Chi. And for the Human Torch, Incinerate immune champs are really what you want. Elsa Bloodstone would work really well for this. However, because you've got those initial fights, I would maybe highly recommend the best sort of champs for this one are champs like Nick Fury. Obviously, for the Strife, he works for the Miscounter and the Guillotine. I use Professor X. Quicksilver works really well. OG Black Panther, Shang-Chi, Falcon, all these champs work really, really nicely for this path. So in the end, it's not actually too tricky at all. So that will do it for these fights. That's basically a run through of these nodes, and I will see you again for the boss fight. Hello guys, we're at the character select. Here we are going to take the Symbiote Supreme boss. He is arguably the easiest one. Maybe the Sorcerer Supreme one is a little bit easier, but I had great counters for the Symbiote Supreme one, so I took him on. He has the Ebb and Flow knockdown, so all protection. He has a protection, reducing incoming damage by 60%, knock him down. And you gain a Fury passive, increasing your attack by 40%. Obviously, when that ends, then the protection goes back up, and all debuffs on the defender or on Symbiote Supreme are not purified. He's also got steady perseverance, so when he activates a special attack, he also gets a stun immunity for 8 seconds, plus 2 seconds for each of his unique buffs. So it ends up being about 10 to 11 seconds, depending on how far in the fight you are with Symbiote Supreme. He has Feats of Power, which is obviously the Fury, the Precision, and the Cruelty at 1 bar of power, 1, 2, and 3 bars of power, respectively. And then he has Power Gain Rate Immune, where obviously he is immune to the, you being able to alter his power gain rate. How does Symbiote Supreme work is mainly the issue for this. As I said, what are the actual nodes on this? It's protection. That's it. The real problem here is you want to take in somebody who is Nullify or Stagger immune, because his Nullifies and Staggers, if you come on, I use Gallon to give you guys an example of what it would be like. And basically what happens is he gains 3 bars of power, throws his SP3. If you can't tank it, you will die. So yeah, you just want to knock him down. Great counters for this: Overseer, Thing, Titania, Spider-Man 2099, Red Guardian, all with no buffs. I tried Quicksilver because he obviously doesn't get the dex. His dex is built in, but he obviously was getting other buffs as well, so it wasn't quite working. But yeah, you can definitely do this fight with those options. You could do it with some other champs as well, who may be Nullify or Stagger immune, but the other one's like Civil Warrior, and he's just rubbish. So yeah, you want to take in somebody who's Stagger or Nullify immune. Here I just go wrong with the Overseer. That's completely my fault. I'll take that. I'll happily spend the revives. But here's what I mean by if you don't take in somebody who's Nullify or Stagger immune, because of Symbiote Supreme's massive power gain, he obviously, as you can see there, he gains a ton of power, while when he does Nullify puts a Stagger on and you try and trigger a buff. So it's obviously somebody like Gallon, who gets an absolute ton of buffs, just does not work. Even with the Harvest, he basically just can't get it off quick enough. But yeah, if you have the right counter, the Symbiote Supreme boss is relatively easy. If I hadn't gone wrong with the Overseer, I reckon I could have just done it in that fight. But you'll see it in a minute that I managed to get him all the way down with the Overseer's second life, I think. I don't know if I use a revive, but at the end of the day, it's a classic Nullify video if I use a few revives. But here I'm showing you guys what to do. That doesn't necessarily mean what I do is the best thing to do. And that's it. He doesn't get his SP3. You take direct damage. So obviously if you don't have somebody who's Nullify or Stagger immune, you will just take that direct damage and die. So you want to try and bring in somebody who is the Overseer, the Thing, Civil Warrior, or no buffs. That's sort of the key for these fights. Yeah, really, it's about knocking him down, doing as much damage as you possibly can while he's knocked down. Overseer is really good for this. If only he could have had his relic, because that Hulk relic is absolutely massive, means he just does so much extra damage, which is really, really nice. But yeah, going into cosmic mode, then just doing a lot of physical vulnerability damage, or making him vulnerable to physical attacks, obviously with that physical vulnerability and special concussions are sort of perfect for this one, and work in combination really nice. So he's a sort of a perfect counter for this, and works really well. That's it for this video. I hope you guys have enjoyed it and it has helped you. But as I said, you may need to use some revives here. You could do this in one go with no revives. It just depends how patient you are. For example, I'm not very patient. I want to get to Act 8 as quickly as possible. I find the quests fun. If I have to spend some revives, so be it. I don't spend any money on the game, but I'll happily grind for units to then buy revives. So yeah, I'm perfectly happy to do that. Again, thank you so much all for watching. I appreciate all the support on these videos. 7.3.5 will be out tomorrow and 7.3.6 the next day. And then we'll finally be at the week 4 of the side quest, and new champs will be shown to us very, very soon. I hope you guys are excited for that. I hope you all have an amazing day. Thank you so much for watching. Have a great day. Goodbye.